What's going on, everybody? My picture is fuzzy. I think that's maybe a little bit better. Hopefully. I don't know. Ideally, it looks a bit better. But either way, welcome to another episode of Facemask Fantasy. We are through the first 3 weeks of the NFL season. Week 4 is upon us. Plenty to touch on. We now officially have, a solid enough sample size here to work with to ultimately determine potential short-term and long-term guys that you want to look to add to your roster who are still currently available on the waiver wire. We'll make sure we talk about all of that today. There are some obvious names. There are some names for deeper leagues for anybody who's playing in larger leagues to consider. There's a couple of obvious names, of course, to already go over. And then, of course, the guys who are already on your roster who need to officially be put on the drop list, or at the very least, the drop radar. We'll get into all of that today. Hopefully, everybody had a good week 3. Hopefully, everybody got some wins. On a personal level, I didn't have a ton of individual success this week, but that's okay. It's just 1 week. I was off to a pretty good start for the most part for the first 2 weeks of the season. So we take our lumps, we bounce back, we move forward on to week 4 with still plenty of time in the season to course correct. What's going on, Greg? I feel like I may have told I feel like I remember telling somebody to start to start an option over Laporta. I think it was like Njoku over Laporta. So that was a miss. But Laporta looks spectacular. He's a top 3 tight end on the season already. I don't know if that is sustainable for the rest of the season, but he continues to be incredibly impressive. And at this point, if you have Sam Laporta rostered, unless you drafted him as your tight end 2 behind an obvious stud like Kelsey or Andrews, I mean, he needs to be fired up in all formats, all situations, unless you have Kelsey, Andrews, or Hawkinson. So happy to be able to help out with that. Glad to hear that was worked out for you. But it is a new week. We celebrate our victories for about 24 hours and we keep it moving, right? We've officially hit around that timestamp where we want to start looking forward to week 4 and the waiver wire options available to you when waivers process either tomorrow or Thursday, depending on your league's format. Obvious name, of course. Let's just get this one out of the way. If Devon Achane is on your waiver wire, Devon Achane, I think that's how this was in the headlines all yesterday. He corrected a bunch of people as to what he prefers his name to, how to pronounce it. I feel like we've tried to pronounce it several different ways this offseason, and it's always been wrong. I thought it was Achane. Apparently, it's Achane. So I'll continue. If he wants it to be pronounced Achane because that's what it actually is, according to the man himself, then we will honor that. Achane, the obvious name. You're not going to see him put up 50 burgers every single week, but 30, 35, 40% of whatever you have left remaining on FOB, feel free to fire that towards Achane. He probably took Jeff Wilson's job without Wilson even getting an opportunity this season to earn the RB2 spot behind Raheem Mostert, who is also off to a torrid start this season. I believe he is the RB1 through 3 games in pretty much all scoring formats. So obviously keep it moving with him. Keep firing him up, but Achane needs to be on rosters if he's not already. He needs to be on rosters for the rest of the season if he's not already. Can't imagine there's any going back from this if you're the Miami Dolphins. He needs to have a role moving forward And you're not going to get the Broncos defense every single week. You're not going to get an offense that scores 70 points every week or even half that every week. Because I'm pretty sure it was only the fourth time in NFL history that it's ever happened. But this guy, Achane has RB3 upside for the immediate future, at least the next week or so while Jeff Wilson is on IR. And I can't imagine that Wilson comes back at this point and takes Achane's job after what we just saw. So if he's out there, if he's available, 30, 35, 40% of whatever fob you have left, if you want to go even a little bit higher than that, um, go ahead and try to scoop him up, especially if you're a little needy at running back. Uh, let's just double check his availability in Yahoo leagues. Couldn't have been very high because he hadn't played prior to week 3. Or he played week 2, but it was minimal usage. Yeah, Achane's only rostered in 42% of leagues, so almost 60% of Yahoo leagues he is available. Let's just go ahead and go over to Sleeper and see what his availability is over there. 46%, so slightly more, but he was dropped in 10% of the leagues that he was actually rostered in prior to the game last week. So, again, probably around 60% of leagues, Achane is available. 30 to 40% of whatever fob you have remaining, go ahead and fire it off in his direction. See if you can get him added. Honestly, if you need to go a little bit higher than that, if you're needy at running back, just go for it. Looks spectacular. Clearly is a fantastic fit in this Dolphins offense. Everybody's making comparisons to it's a track meet with the Miami Dolphins. They have the 5 fastest ball carriers on the season. How they utilize the run game. Speed is a major element here. Achane's not going anywhere. Mostert's the starter, but Achane needs to have a role moving forward. And so he needs to be rostered, and he needs to be, however much fob you feel like you need to utilize, depending on how needy you are at running back, go ahead and just make that thing happen. He's the obvious one. We can get into other potential waiver wire guys that are available in your league. Tank Dell looks like a great ad. Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed. Christian Watson is supposed to be coming back for the Packers Thursday night game this week against the Lions. Still, Jordan Love is off to a decent start as far as passing scores. I think he has 12 through 3 games. Is that correct? Seven, excuse me. I don't know where I got the 12 from. That number will only go up with Watson back in the lineup and Aaron Jones for what it's worth. Love is playing well. QBR is top 10 in the league. Doubs and Jaden Reed, both obvious options to add if you could use some wide receiver depth, and they should come on the cheap with the news that Watson is returning. Of course, Mike Williams goes down for the Chargers. Torn ACL, out for the rest of the season. So Quentin Johnston is a long-term look. Josh Palmer, maybe a little bit more short-term add. Johnston has the long-term upside and appeal, though. He might be available because he's been kind of quiet. He could have been a drop after the first couple of weeks for a more short-term need. Let me just double-check Yahoo leagues. Yeah, Quentin Johnston's only rostered in 33% of Yahoo leagues. So over 2/3 of leagues, he's still available. He's going to be a trendy ad this week. Joshua Palmer is probably the cheaper short-term guy, but if you want to roll the dice on what I think is the better long-term piece in this offense, it's probably Quentin Johnston. So lots of good wide receivers available on the wire. Achane, the obvious running back ad. I would say Kendre Miller is also on the radar. Again, if you could use a running back. And I would say Tajay Spears, I kind of mentioned him last week as a guy who is worth a stash. Derrick Henry did not have a good game week 3. The Titans, they're trying to stay relevant and competitive this year. It doesn't look like they have they don't have the offense to make that happen. And so we could see Spears before long, especially if Henry continues to run ineffectively. So there's a few options. We can go through them if you prefer. If you have any questions about your specific waiver wire, otherwise, I'm happy to take questions in the chat as it pertains to your specific situation. I'll get to my members first, and the general public. I just ask for a little bit of patience, and we'll get to y'all as well. And yes to Laporta over Henry rest of season at this rate. The only guys that I have over Laporta rest of season are Kelsey, Andrews, Hawkinson. I get George Kittle, maybe Dallas Goedert, but honestly, that we've forced the issue here with Sam Laporta. The guy needs to be considered at this point as a top 7 or 8 play rest of season. I think he's the tight end 3 or 4 on the year so far. Hawkinson's the tight end 1. Hunter Henry might be the tight end 2, still, despite the dud that he had this past week. And then it might be Laporta. Kelsey will usurp him eventually. Andrews will as well. But and George Kittle probably will as well. But after that, I mean, the conversation starts like Laporta versus Dallas Goedert. That's literally where we're at. Goddard's had some decent usage, but Laporta has just been better. Like, I'd rather have Laporta than Kyle Pitts, Darren Waller, guys like Njoku and Freiermuth and Evan Ingram, the guys that we were drafting 75, 80 picks into the draft. I'd rather have Laporta than all those guys. Like Laporta or Kyle Pitts. Laporta. And it's not because I think Laporta is more talented than Kyle Pitts. I think Kyle Pitts is in fantasy hell right now because he has to play for the Atlanta Falcons. Same goes for Drake London. Atlanta is fantasy hell. What did Brandon Cooks do this past week? Quiet showing. 2 for 17. I mean, you could. I wouldn't move on from Nico Collins. I know Nico had a bad game, but CJ Stroud is playing very well. And a division game on the road, I wouldn't be too worried about Nico. Cooks is starting to look like a guy that you could move on from. He's been, he missed week 2 to injury. He didn't do much of anything weeks 1 or 3. It might be a little knee-jerky to move on from Brandon Cooks in favor of Tank Dell, but Dell is off to a great start, and CJ Stroud looks good. I mean, huge upset win for the Houston Texans going on the road into Jacksonville and beating the Jaguars. Stroud looks good behind a bad offensive line too, or at least an incredibly banged up one for injury-wise. Laramie Tunsil's a good player, but that's a banged up offensive line, and Stroud is performing behind it. Kudos to him. So if you want to grab Tank for Cooks, can't fault you at this point. All right, let's see what we got. Can you drop Gibson and Josh Kelly? Absolutely. I hate to say, I've been an Antonio Gibson backer, truther, believer, whatever you want to call it. It's bad. And there's still enough season for it to turn around, but at the same time, there's not really I haven't seen any examples or reason to have any optimism with Antonio Gibson. It's Brian Robinson's backfield for better or worse. And Robinson looks pretty good. Gibson isn't getting a ton of opportunities, but with the ones that he's getting, he's not really doing anything with it. And he turned the ball over. He fumbled on in week 3. That's a death sentence. That's a running back death sentence. It's any player death sentence. But if you're a running back and you fumble the football, you only get so many opportunities. Coaches aren't going to tolerate it. They're not going to let it happen a third or fourth time. If they see it happen once or twice, that's all it takes. Gibson's a drop. I liked Josh Kelly in this spot. I did. I was telling people that Kelly was a good streaming option this week. I was wrong. I think he turned like 11 carries into 12 yards. Joshua Kelly stinks. He is who we thought he was. Every single option in the Chargers' backfield behind Austin Eckler is miss after miss by the Chargers as an organization trying to find a backup running back. They've failed at every turn. Isaiah Spiller, Joshua Kelly, whoever the hell else they have there, whiff after whiff after whiff. None of these guys are good. It's official. None of these guys are worth rostering. I don't care if one of these dudes has a blow-up spot any given week in Austin Eckler's absence. Josh Kelly is an easy drop. And nobody else in that backfield behind Eckler is worth rostering. Not even in 8-man leagues, 6-man leagues. The shallowest of leagues, Joshua Kelly is a drop. I would say Antonio Gibson is a drop as well. And especially if you can get somebody like Achane. I wouldn't say Jeff Wilson is on the radar just yet. I liked Jeff Wilson coming into the season, but he may have lost his opportunity for a role on Sunday after what we saw from Achane. I so badly want to say Achane, but he corrected everybody on Sunday after the game. Dude scored 4 touchdowns and politely asked us to pronounce his name correctly. I feel like we can accommodate that request. What to do with Justin Fields and Najee Harris? This is rough. This hurts. Najee needs to stay on your bench because he's running back depth, but that's all he is at this point. Unless you have a barren wasteland of a situation at running back, you cannot start Najee Harris. You have to continue to roster Najee Harris because he's a running back with a role, and that's all it takes for a running back when it comes to fantasy. He has a role. You have to keep him. You can't trade him. What are you going to trade him for? A bag of chips? Nobody's going to want Najee Harris. But you have to hang on to him because he's running back depth. And that's all it comes down to. With Justin Fields, he's probably a drop in one quarterback leagues, especially if somebody like Kirk Cousins is available. I can't believe that's a sentence that I'm saying in the year 2023, but this is where we're at. The Bears are a colossal failure. The Bears are a dumpster fire. They do nothing well. I don't know that they have a single good player on their team that is worth building around for the future, and that unfortunately includes Fields, who I have been very high on since he was drafted a couple of years ago. He's a drop in 1 QB leagues, 10 and 12 team leagues. If Kirk Cousins is out there, scoop him. If Jordan Love is out there, scoop him. At this point, I want a quarterback who at least he himself is not only competent, but at least I feel a little bit better about the team. Now, the Vikings stink as well, but at least Kirk Cousins is putting up decent numbers. And the Vikings defense is bad enough where that shouldn't change week over week. Cousins is a viable NFL quarterback. And when he's playing with a bad defense, the Vikings have a bad defense, he's going to throw the ball a ton. He's capable of putting up numbers in that regard. I'd rather have Cousins. A guy like Jordan Love, I don't know that he has as much natural raw talent as Justin Fields, but he's on a much better team in Green Bay. And sometimes it comes down to, I would rather have a guy who looks like he's performing decently on a good team than a similar type of player on a horrendous team. Plus, Love gets Christian Watson back this week, presumably, and Aaron Jones back, both presumably. It's looking like they're going to get the Packers, both of those guys, back for their Thursday night game against the Lions. Speaking of the Lions, if Jared Goff is available, shit, I'd rather have him. There are so many quarterbacks I'd rather have than Justin Fields right now. I think the ship has sailed as far as Justin Fields' potential in Chicago. If Fields, I think I'll say it. If Fields is gonna be a viable NFL quarterback, he has to get out of Chicago. He has to get out of Chicago. I would drop him in one quarterback leagues. You have to keep him in super flex, but holy hell, I hope you have a viable QB3 to turn to, because we can't play Justin Fields moving forward, even in good matchups. This is a good matchup this week against Denver, but like, we're out of excuses. I can't play Justin Fields this week. I can't. What's going on, Iron? Good to see you, man. Yeah, I would drop Fields for Love and play Deshaun Watson. That's how bad it is. That's how bad it is. Yep. We need to move on from Fields in one quarterback leagues. We have to. How do I feel about Madison moving forward? Not good. Not good. I was saying over the weekend for the start sit streams, I was saying that you have to start Madison this week. And also, he's fighting for his job. Now, he did total over 100 yards from scrimmage. That was good. But I think he needed like 20 carries to get 93 yards. That's not good. At the end of the day, the numbers were there. I think he had 93 rushing yards and he had like 5 catches for 30. So 120 all-purpose yards, that'll work in fantasy all week long, all day long. 20 carries to get 93 yards, not good. That's bad. So, I mean, you're not dropping him. Madison's not a drop. You have to hold on to him. But he's probably a matchup-dependent guy. You have to hold him. 20 for 93 against a bad Chargers run defense, not a good sign. Not a good sign. Let's see. You traded Diggs for Mostert and Ford. I don't think that's terrible. Mostert's the RB1 right now. I know, like, Stephon Diggs is a huge name, right? He's one of the biggest names at receiver in the NFL and in fantasy football. But if you like your receiver depth and that was the guy that you needed to move to get some help at running back, then I mean, look, it's hard to knock it. Mostert is, I know, 3 games, small sample size. Mostert's the RB1. 0 RB strikes again. I won't go down that rabbit hole, but Mostert's the RB1 through 3 weeks. And I know that Devon Achane looked spectacular last on Sunday against the Broncos, but so did Mostert. Mostert's not going anywhere as that team starter. I mean, you got the running back on the best offense in football. Not bad. And then Jerome Ford caught a touchdown, survived a bad matchup by the numbers against Tennessee. He did all right. I mean, obviously Nick Chubb's not coming back. I'd say that's pretty good. All things considered. It's funny how quickly the landscape can change, right? Week 1, you would never consider a move like that, but here we are coming into week 4, and it's like, no, that actually makes a lot of sense. Jerome Ford's going to be an RB2 rest of season. Raheem Mostert might be a low-end RB1 rest of season. He's the RB1 right now. That probably won't stay the same. But he's the top option at running back in the best offense in football in Miami. I'd say you're fine. I'd say it's fine. Diggs is a big loss, but again, if you like your receiver depth, then you did what had to be done. So it's fine. Yeah, I'm fine with the trade. Let's see. Send Mostert and Ridley for Gibbs and Waddle. It's a roll of the dice. It's risky. Gibbs has not fired quite yet, but I do still believe in him. I do still believe in Gibbs because he's running behind a really good offensive line, and the Lions are still in need of playmakers behind Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta for at least another couple weeks until Jameson Williams comes back, and then we don't even know what he's going to provide. JMO remains the biggest question mark of the fantasy season until further notice, until we actually see him out there. Mostert's the RB1 on the season. Ridley had a strong week 1, and he's been quiet since then. And the Jags in general are falling flat of preseason expectations. Now, if you are interested, if you like Ridley, I will say this. He plays, it's in London this week, but he plays the Falcons. Calvin Ridley has a revenge game this week. And I personally like chasing those narratives. I'm sure Ridley has a bit of an axe to grind with Atlanta, whether he admits it or not. You know, he saw a little bit of a mid-career kind of setback in Atlanta, and then they traded him during his suspension to Jacksonville, and now he gets to play them this week. I like Calvin Ridley this week. Obviously, when you're talking about a trade, you're probably talking about the rest of the season. I would probably wait on that trade, sending Mostert and Ridley, until we get more definitive news about Jalen Waddle's health. He's still in concussion protocol. And while a concussion is not typically something that it has super long-term ramifications like a soft tissue injury does, it's still a head injury, and it's still something that you have to proceed with caution with. I would hold for one more week. Let's see if Ridley can blow up against the Falcons, get his value back up, and then maybe you don't have to send as much to make that trade happen, or maybe you get a third piece back in the deal. I would hold. I would hold on Mostert and Ridley for one more week. Let's see if Ridley can have a blow up spot against his old team. Are Khalil and Dotson droppable or a hold? Yeah, so I mean, it's hard to feel good about anything on the Bears offense right now. It depends on who you're dropping him for. Herbert has had, decent usage. 12 touches week 1, 8 touches week 2, 9 touches week 3. It's not great. Oh, and he lost a fumble this past week. That's right. I almost forgot about that. And Roschon Johnson was the first running back on the field for the Bears. So do with that whatever you choose to. It depends on who's available. But if it's like drop Khalil for Devon Achane, yeah. Yes. As for Dotson, Sam Howell had a horrendous day, right? He had 4 interceptions. The Bills are a good defense. The Bills are in another tier above the Commanders from a competitive perspective. So, you kind of can try to weigh all of these things as far as like whether a guy is a hold or not. But it is an incredibly slow start to the season for the Commanders offense, and Dotson specifically hasn't really gotten anything going. Just 2 catches for 21 yards. In game script that was in his favor, the problem was Sam Howell had a horrendous day. Under 200 yards passing, 4 interceptions. I mean, nobody's going to come through in that situation. Washington gets Philly this week. Another tough spot. Although, remember, Washington went into Philly last year and won. I think that was with Taylor Heineke, though, at quarterback, not Sam Howell. So, if I were to say if either one of these dudes were a hold, I guess I would say Dotson. But if you can get Achane for either one, then fine. Then fine. Should you trade Derrick Henry? Honestly, man, I would if you can. I am pessimistic about Derrick Henry. One, he's a 29-year-old running back with 1 million touches. 1 million career touches. Obviously, I'm being facetious. What is Derrick Henry career? He's near that 1,800 carry threshold that I always talk about. Yeah. So you know what? He just eclipsed it. If y'all are new here, if y'all haven't heard me talk about this before, I'm happy to rehash it. Running backs in the modern era, when they hit a career workload of 1,800 touch or carries, they've carried the football 1,800 times. That is a traditional benchmark where you can kind of look at a running back and think to yourself, that dude's about to probably fall off a cliff. And that's what happens with running backs. They fall off when you least expect it because it's not a slow decline. It's a drop. It's a big drop off. You can look at the historical data behind this. The 1,800 carry threshold is an indicator that a running back is done or close to done. Derrick Henry eclipsed that number on Sunday. Trade him now while his name still has some type of value. I would. Derrick Henry's had a great career. He had a 5-year stretch where I was like, this dude is a god amongst men. It's time. Move on from Derrick Henry. Move on from Derrick Henry however you have to. I know that sounds weird. It sounds weird to hear. It feels weird to say. I think it's the right proactive call. You might not get much, especially coming off of a bad performance. If you want to hold for one more week in hopes that he can squeak out a something that resembles a typical Derrick Henry performance, he's at home this week against the Bengals, so he's got a shot. He's got a shot to do much better than he did against Cleveland. And being at home, his chances are a little bit better. But yeah, man, this is probably the year. By the way, I'd be totally fine being wrong on this because you just like seeing great players continue to be great, and Derrick Henry has been a great player. But this is probably the end for Derrick Henry. This is probably the end for Derrick Henry, just given the career workload. And Batty, if you're still in here, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Hey, man, don't worry about what other people say about your trades. If you yourself believe that what you did was the right call for your team, that's the only thing that matters. That's the only thing that matters. Don't get fleeced. And I don't think you did here. I think you got good, their names don't look big compared to what we were expecting from certain players coming into the season. But right now, Raheem Mostert and Jerome Ford are incredibly valuable running backs. So it's fine. Tyreek or CD and Olave. I love Tyreek Hill, but I would take CD and Olave. If I'm getting both CD and Olave, I would take CD and Olave. Tyreek Hill's incredible. Tyreek Hill's incredible. He might be the best wide receiver in football. Another 9 for 157 and a score. I mean, the dude is automatic. But you're getting two other really, really good wide receivers in exchange. I'll take CD and Olave. I'll take CD and Olave. And Greg, I got the. Oh, sorry. Palmer's also an option? I would say, yeah, you can move on for. I would hold Nico, but I would go Dell first. Probably Palmer second, and then Thielen. I know Thielen had a really strong day, but the Panthers are going to go back to Bryce Young when Bryce Young is ready to play, and that probably hurts his value some. Dalton is more NFL ready right now, but also Andy Dalton is not the future of the Carolina Panthers, so he's not going to play if Bryce Young is healthy. That, right now in his rookie year, while he's still figuring things out, that lowers the ceiling of the offense. I would put Palmer ahead of Thielen as a short-term solution, catching passes from Justin Herbert. But I would put Tank Dell first because Dell just looks like the best guy of the bunch. I would lean Tank Dell, just to piggyback off of Derek's comments right below. I would lean Dell over Thielen because Thielen is not going to catch passes from Andy Dalton for the rest of the season. He's going to have his weeks with Bryce Young. That caps his ceiling. Dell already looks like a rock-solid contributor, and C.J. Stroud looks like he belongs. I would prefer... And Dell is not going anywhere all season long. There's no doubt. He's already carved out a regular role in that wide receiver core. I would put Dell first, personally. All right, let's see. 0-3 start to the season. These things happen. It's okay. It hurts. It sucks. You're thinking yourself, like, this is, is a worst case scenario. You don't want to start 0-3, but the season's not over. Bijan, Javonte, Devontae Smith, Drake London, Goddard, Flowers, Brian Robinson. Okay. Yeah, there's some good pieces here. No, I wouldn't break this up too much. I mean, Javonte Williams is off to a slow start. London is a difficult guy to trust week in and week out. Maybe that's the guy you try to move after a good game. Like, maybe try to wait. What were London's official numbers this past week against the Lions? They only scored 3 points, so he caught 2 balls. Yeah, man. Drake London and Kyle Pitts are in fantasy hell. You can't regularly rely on those guys. That being said, London is a pretty big name. I would hope that London can have a good performance week 4 and then try to flip him. Because you could just start Zay Flowers or Elijah Moore. Or hell, you could probably start Marvin Mims at this point, and you'll feel just fine. I would probably try to trade London for some running back help. You have Devontae Smith. You have Zay Flowers. You have Elijah Moore. You have Marvin Mims. That's not like the best collection of wide receiver talent, but it's good enough. If you can upgrade at running back, I think you'll be okay. Burrow's a little dicey with the calf injury. Don't know how long he's going to be dealing with that for the rest of the season, so that's going to be a headache. I don't know that you're going to be able to move off of Burrow. Not sure you're going to be able to move off of him. He's probably going to be kind of inconsistent for at least the next few weeks. Does Thielen have his revenge game this week? Are they playing they're playing the Vikings? They are. Big time Adam Thielen revenge game. Good call, Iron. I love finding revenge games. Love finding revenge games. So Calvin Ridley this week, Adam Thielen this week. I guess that makes Thielen a little more enticing. He gets a little revenge spot against a bad Vikings defense. They are not good. And Iron, congrats on the crazy win. You love seeing crazy victories. We all have them at some point or other. Always fun when you win when you least expect it. I had that one time. I think I had one time where I was like, I think I was winning by like 5 points, and I was done, and the guy had his kicker still to go. And I think it was it might have been like Butker. It was a good kicker. I was down by 5, and he booted like a 40-yard field goal to open the game, and I was just like, he just needs like 2 more points for the rest of the game. I'm done. I'm not watching this game. I can't watch this loss. I can't stomach it. I came back in like a couple of hours, and I'm like, they didn't score again the rest of the night. I was like, this is outrageous. Didn't deserve that victory, but you'll take them. And sorry, Greg, I missed this one. Do I like Richardson over Lawrence rest of season? Hard to say. Obviously, we didn't see Richardson this past week, and he has picked up some injuries already early on. So that's not the most promising sign. But Trevor Lawrence himself has not met any expectations that were laid out for the Jaguars this year. They've been incredibly disappointing. They could turn it around this week against Atlanta. If Richardson plays, though, if Richardson is cleared for this week, which he hasn't been last I checked, he's still in concussion protocol. But if he gets cleared for this week, yeah, I probably would fire up Richardson for the upside over Trevor Lawrence. Yep. Yeah. Lawrence has disappointed, so as a result, Calvin Ridley has not been good. He had a good week 1, but 2 bad weeks in weeks 2 and 3. I would be firing up Ridley with a decent amount of confidence this week. He's going up against his old team. He's playing the Falcons. You know he's in Trevor Lawrence's ear, in Doug Peterson's ear. Get me the ball this week. I want to kill the Falcons, or something to that effect. Ridley wants to have a great game against his former team that traded him amidst a suspension when his, again, a bit of a mid-season career. I don't know if crisis is the right word, but I mean, he cited mental health in during the 2021 season, missed the second half of the season, and then was suspended the whole of 2022 for gambling. I mean, I think it's fair to say he was dealing with some stuff mid-season. Atlanta trades him during that to Jacksonville. Now he gets to play Atlanta. I got to imagine he wants to go nuclear against them. I would fire up Ridley for one more week. If you want to pivot off of Lawrence in one quarterback leagues, it's like Justin Fields. Can't blame you. Maybe it's not as bad as Justin Fields because unlike Justin Fields, I know Trevor Lawrence is a capable starting quarterback, and that might be selling him a little short. But I know that Trevor Lawrence is a long-term capable starting quarterback. I thought Justin Fields was. I might have been wrong about that one. And if Fields is a viable starting quarterback in this league, it's not happening in Chicago. I am willing to say that marriage is officially over. The Bears are probably not going to admit it, and they're not going to trade him in season, but they should. I mean, yeah, that being said, I would fire up Ridley this week. And if you have Tua, yeah, Tua's an every week starter in every one quarterback leagues, whatever have you. Tua's an every week starter. As far as Mostert, I mean, you can't ever expect a 4-touchdown performance, and you can't project that he's going to do that again. But the guy needs to be in starting lineups until further notice. Hell, you might need to find a way to get Achane into your lineup next week as well. These guys aren't going to put up 50 burgers every single week. I think Mostert had around 40 and Achane had around like 49 or 48 or so. They're not going to do that every week. But are they both potentially? Mostert's a top 20 option rest of season. And Achane is probably a top 25 to 30 option rest of season. With upside, of course, for even better finishes and performances than that. How much fob would I spend on Palmer? I like him as a short-term guy. If you need a wide receiver this week, 10% of your fob. Might not even need that much. It depends on, I guess. Okay, so how much you spend on Joshua Palmer is contingent upon if Quentin Johnston is also available in your league. If Quentin Johnston is also on waivers, then I would put a smaller bid in. You could put in bids for both of them, but I would put a smaller bid in for Quentin Johnston in hopes that he can be the guy that emerges down the road. If you need a guy for this week, you absolutely need a wide receiver this week, I would spend 10% of my fob on Palmer. If Quentin Johnston is not available, then you could bump it up to like, say, I don't know, 12%. 15% feels a little high for a guy like Joshua Palmer. I would say around 10 to 12%, maybe 12-ish if Quentin Johnston is not available, and maybe around like 10% if he is. It depends on if Quentin Johnston is available. Let's see. Question about you have Dalton Kincaid. Joe's got Dalton Kincaid and Samaje Perine. If Sutton is available, I mean, all of these names look pretty strong. I'm not crazy about Elijah Mitchell. I like Dubs. I guess you can drop Kincaid for Hunter Henry, but I feel like you're trading you're trading an up and down guy for an up and down guy. Like you're swapping an up and down guy for an up and down guy, if that makes sense. Musgrave is really enticing, but I'm trying to temper expectations on him because Christian Watson and Aaron Jones are coming back. So I'm not sure that he continues to see the volume that he received like last week. Musgrave looks really good, though. I will say that. If Laporta wasn't going crazy to start the season, Musgrave would be the best looking rookie tight end. But Laporta's going nuts. I would say, I mean, it looks like these guys, you say that Perine's your worst player. That might mean, I mean, sounds like you maybe have a solid roster, solid lineup. I don't know who your starting wide receivers are. The question I would have for you is, are any of those wide receivers on the wire? Do you need to start them this week? If you do, then I guess I would grab Palmer because it's hard to vouch for Sutton. I know Sutton he scored a touchdown this past week, but it's hard to put your faith in bad teams, and the Broncos are a bad team. Not that the Chargers are great, but they're better than the Broncos. If you don't need a wide receiver this week, then I would probably trying to grab Quentin Johnston and hope that he can be the dude that develops down the road, down the line. So if you do need a wide receiver this week, I would grab Palmer. If you don't need a wide receiver this week, I would grab Quentin Johnston. As far as your starting tight end, I mean, this past week was Kincaid's truly first bad game. And I know that the numbers don't exactly pop out at you, right? 5 catches for 43 yards week 2, 4 catches for 26 yards week 1. These aren't great numbers in a vacuum, but for a rookie tight end, it's pretty good. It's not bad. I would drop Pirine for sure. I would probably hold Kincaid for one more week. And by the way, here's another thing. They're playing the Dolphins. The Bills are playing the Dolphins. The Dolphins just got done hanging 70 on the Broncos. They're not going to hang 70 on the Bills, but there's a good chance for lots of points to be scored in this game. I would probably roll the dice with Kincaid one more week. And I would drop Pirine for Palmer if I need a wide receiver this week, and Quentin Johnson if I want a wide receiver for the rest of the season. That's what I would probably do. Yeah, my wide receiver order for waivers, Greg. Dell first. Palmer second. Thielen third. Elijah Moore is on waivers? Greg, if Elijah Moore is on waivers, he's ahead of all of them. If Elijah Moore is on waivers, he's ahead of all those guys. I believe in Elijah Moore. He should probably be on a roster. He hasn't blown the top off just yet, but he's been involved in every game. He had 9 catches this past week. I know he hasn't cleared 50 yards receiving yet, but Deshaun Watson looked competent on Sunday against the Titans, which is saying something because he didn't look competent the first 2 games of the season. Deshaun Watson looked competent week 3. So I would be chasing the optimism that maybe he's getting his rhythm back a little bit. I would put Elijah Moore over those guys. I would. Would I ever do a consultation? Terrell or Terrell? I hope I'm saying that correctly one way or another. I do consultations for my members. That is one of the perks of becoming a member of the Facemask Fantasy channel. If you feel so inclined and you do want some one-on-one time with me, we can schedule that. It is a perk that I provide to my members. I think it's the second level that you need to sign up for it to be to be eligible. I would have to double check that. I should probably know that information. But there is information about becoming a member in the first link in the description of this live stream and all of my other videos and streams on this channel. That is a perk that I do offer to my members. So if you are interested, if you do want to have like a consultation session with me for 30 minutes or so, we can arrange that. I do that for my members. So if you feel so inclined, you can join up as a member and we can set that up. If not, that's okay. I'm happy, of course, to still give my thoughts on a specific situation, but obviously I got to keep it moving to a certain degree in these live streams because I got to help. I got to help everybody who takes the time out of their day, to come in and hang out here. So appreciate the question. Happy to do it. It is a perk that I do allow specifically for my members, though. What's up, Nemo? Good to see you, man. If I had to pick from one of these, okay, so with start-sit questions, I encourage that you come back over the course of the weekend if you can. Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern, Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern. Although, well, I'm going to have to amend that this week because there is a London game this week. So that's going to be 9:30 in the morning for the East Coasters. 6:30 a.m. for us West Coast crazy heads who are going to be waking up for football on a weekend at 6:30 in the morning, but you already know that I'll be awake for it. I might have to amend the start sit live stream for Sunday. I got to think about that. But Saturday for sure, 6 p.m. Eastern, I'll be available. It's just going to be easier to go over start sit help closer to the weekend when we have practice reports. That being said, I would tentatively pencil in Brees. I know it's been bad the past 2 weeks. We got to get a feel on vibes and practice reports and all that good stuff later in the week. That'll be a better time to try to figure out start sit questions. So if you're able to make it on Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern, I will be here. We can try to sort it out then. Trade question. Kelsey and Deshaun Watson for Lawrence and Keenan Allen. So you would be trading Kelsey and Watson to acquire Lawrence and Keenan Allen? I don't think I would do that. I would sooner trade Laporta. I would sooner sell high on Laporta than give up Travis Kelce. Laporta's on an absolute tear. But Travis Kelce is one of the greatest tight ends of all time. Still doing his thing. I would not trade Kelce as a reaction to Laporta's strong start. And especially because Lawrence is not playing particularly well right now. Now, Keenan Allen would be an awesome addition. He's the wide receiver one right now through 3 weeks. Raheem Mostert is the RB1 and Keenan Allen is the wide receiver one. Just like we all predicted, right? I would not trade Kelce, though, just because you have Laporta. I would sooner prefer to try to sell high on Laporta. Like, could you do Laporta and Deshaun Watson for just Keenan Allen? And then you could stream a quarterback? I would almost rather do that if you can pull that off. Like Laporta and Watson, they may not go for it because Keenan Allen's also off to a ridiculous start. But Laporta and Watson for just Keenan Allen might not go for it, but the worst they can say is no. If I have Kelce and Laporta, the guy I'm moving is Laporta. I can't trade Kelce. Can't trade Kelce. Trade Bijan and Laporta for Kelce and Madison. See, now this one's interesting. I'm not crazy about Madison. And Bijan he came back to earth week 3. It was very meh. Also, the Falcons continue to insist on giving the ball to Tyler Algier. Bijan Robinson only has one more carry on the season than Tyler Algier. You can't tell me anything else other than Arthur Smith is a boob. They spent the 4th overall pick on Kyle Pitts, the 8th overall pick in Drake London, and the 8th overall pick on Bijan Robinson. 3 separate drafts, of course. They don't use Pitts or London, and Bijan splits work with Tyler Algier. The Falcons are a joke. Anyway, trading Bijan and Laporta for Kelce and Madison. It's a big upgrade going from Laporta to Kelce, but it's a big downgrade going from Bijan to Madison. I would need to know who your other running backs are. What's going on, CXK? Good to see you, man. Which backup QB starts first? Here's the problem. Both of those teams have no incentive not to continue to play Fields and Ritter just to see what they have over the course of the rest of the season. But I would say Heineke. because the Falcons are closer to trying, for better or worse, the Falcons are closer to being contenders for a playoff spot than the Bears. The Bears season is already over. You might as well keep rolling Fields out there. Try to get his value back up. Try to get his confidence back up. Try to put some better performances on paper and then trade him in the offseason because the Bears are going to have the first or second overall pick in the draft anyway. They're that bad. You can kind of already telegraph it. The Bears might win 3 games this year. Maybe. And all 3 would be accidents. I would say Heineke before Badgett for the Bears. The Bears need to keep rolling out Fields because they need him to get his value back up so that they could maybe trade him in the offseason. Whether they'll actually do that or not, I don't know. But you're not going to get any value for him by putting him on the bench. I would say Heineke is closer because the Falcons, for better or worse, the Falcons aren't contenders either, but they may delusionally think otherwise, but the Falcons could contend for a playoff spot. The Bears have no shot. So I would say Heineke. Have I ever completed a 5-for-1 trade? Nah, man. There's no way. No one player is worth that much. Unless it's Justin Jefferson for a pile of trash, but then at that point, you're vetoing that anyway because that's a collusion-filled trade. No, I never completed a 5-for-1. Do I like Kendrick Bourne at all? Yeah. I think he's got 4 catches or more in every game this year so far, right? I'm not going to like him in bad matchups. Who do the Patriots have this week? The Cowboys, right? I wouldn't be crazy about Kendrick Bourne this week, but in plus matchups, I'm just going to take a quick look at the Patriots schedule. They have the Cowboys this week, so I wouldn't necessarily be crazy about trying to fire him up outside of the deepest of leagues. New Orleans, I'm not crazy about week 5. Week 6, that's fine against the Raiders. Buffalo, week 7, not really. But then there's a stretch for Kendrick Bourne from weeks 8 to 14 where you probably feel just fine about him. Miami could be a track meet. Washington, not good. Indianapolis, they're not good at stopping the pass. Week 11 bye. The Giants, they can't tackle anybody. That was proven on Thursday night. The Chargers, week 13, they can't stop a cold or a nosebleed. And then Pittsburgh, week 14, they're giving up lots of points to wide receivers this year. 5th overall. Well, it depends on the scoring settings. But they're top 7 or 8, probably regardless of your scoring settings. I like Kendrick Bourne. You might have to wait until week 6, but yeah, I like Kendrick Bourne. And Nemo, of those streaming options at quarterback, I would probably say Stafford just because I know he's a good quarterback. And sometimes that's all it comes down to, I guess. He didn't have a great game last night, but he's the most competent quarterback of this group by far. I don't think Ritter can play, and Howell had a horrendous game. And so we're back on the seesaw with him as to, week 2, it was like, is Sam Howell solid? And then week 3 happened, and it was just like, maybe not. Ritter, I can already kind of tell you, I don't think he's it. Ritter's not it. Stafford at least can play the position. As far as how much fob to drop on Achane, again, it's Achane, right? It's not A-Chain. I was calling him A-Chain. He said Achane. That's what he asked how to be how to pronounce his name. If you've got $70 left, I would spend probably somewhere around 35 to 40% of it, depending on what the rest of your running back situation is. Dude is perfect for that offense. He is not going to blow up the way that he did against the Broncos. We're not going to see. I think it's fair to kind of claim you're not going to see any more 40-point fantasy performances from Devon Achane for the rest of the season. But the dude has talent. He's almost a carbon copy of Raheem Mostert. They're very similar in size, and their skill is the same. They're fast as hell. I would spend 35 to 40% of that, especially if you need running back help. Jeff Wilson probably lost his opportunity for even a backup role on Sunday. I think he lost that opportunity. He'll stay involved when he comes back, but he might be the third man up. He might be the third man up now, not second. Achane is going to be hard to sit. If you get him, you might need to fire him up as like a high upside RB3. Akers, Javonte, Roschon, Jeff Wilson. Yeah, man, I would throw 35 to 40% of your FOB on there. I would. So I'm not a math major, but I have a computer. 35% of your FOB, Nemo, would be about $25. I would spend somewhere around there. If you have $70 left, if you have $75 left, I would spend around 25 or so, maybe a little bit higher to get Achane. Because Akers is a huge question mark, and that's maybe the nicest thing I can say about him. Javonte's off to a slow start. Roschon is interesting, but not startable yet. And obviously, Jeff Wilson's going to miss at least one more game. I would fire off 25 to $35 out of 70 to try to get him. I would. And then, hell, given those options, let's put it this way, Nemo. Based on those names, you probably want to start him. You probably want to start Achane this week if you can get him. Yeah. And then I'll go back up to the rest of the questions after this one. But as far as Jameson Williams, I would say this is the week to stash him. If you have an open roster spot, if you can afford, because he's a roster clogger for 2 more weeks. Actually, he's a roster clogger for 3 more weeks. But everybody else is going to start thinking about that. They're going to start looking ahead a couple of weeks, especially the teams that are 3-1 or 4-1 in a couple of weeks. They have they have the better records. They're at the top of the league. They're not necessarily worried about immediate needs on the bench. Those are the teams that are going to start looking at grabbing Jameson Williams a couple weeks before his return in anticipation that maybe he can help them for the stretch run. Yeah, this might be the week. This might be the week. Let's see. Looking to upgrade at receiver. You've Diggs, Debo, Dubs, and Pickens. I mean, I don't know how much more you can upgrade there. I don't know how much more you can upgrade there. Diggs is a wide receiver 1. Debo's a top 15 guy. Dubs looks good. Pickens is fine. I know Deontay is supposed to come back eventually, but Deontay is going to miss, 2 more games at least? I mean, Pickens had 4 for 75. That's good. You're not going to get 150 yards and a touchdown every week from guys like that, but 4 catches for 75 yards, that's damn good as your wide receiver 3. You live with that. Any given week, if you start 3 receivers, and you're not absolutely, maybe you've got two really good options and then like a third decent option. If that decent option is getting you 10 points and you've got two other studs, that's all you can ask for. Like Diggs delivered for you this past week. Debo delivered for you this past week. And hell, if you had started, I mean, Dubs would have been the slightly better play than Pickens this week, but I don't think there's too much to upgrade from here. Unless you've got like four RB1s on your roster and you're not using one of them and you can trade one of them for another stud, then that's one thing. But no, I don't think there's too much. I don't think there's not too much more improvement here for me. These are good players. These are good guys to have. Are Bijan and Gibbs going to warm up? Man, Jaws, I hope so. I know what Bijan can do. I also know that he's hamstrung by a boob of a coach. Arthur Smith stinks. I don't know what point he's trying to prove, but they don't utilize London and Pitts, and Algier is getting as many touches as Bijan is. What are you doing? I know Ritter's not that good, but it shouldn't be that hard to draw up a few more like slant routes and button hooks to just like get some easy looks for your 6'4" wide receiver and your 6'6" some odd unicorn tight end. It should not be that hard. Whatever. I'm not an NFL coach, so I guess maybe it's easier said than done. But what really doesn't make sense is why is Bijan Robinson splitting work with Tyler Algier? No disrespect to Tyler Algier. He had a nice season last season, but you drafted Bijan 8th overall, which was already a bad pick for a non-contending team to take a running back in the first round. That's just bad optics. That's how you know that the Falcons as a franchise don't know what they're doing. And then they go ahead and on top of that, they split the work with him. What are you doing? That being said, you have to trust in Bijan's talent to overcome the situation. As for Gibbs, I still believe in Gibbs. He's an electric playmaker. I know we haven't necessarily see that come to fruition in the form of big-time production yet. But the Lions are one of the better teams in the NFC. They are going to be a playoff contender for sure. I like players on good teams as a result because there's no reason to be concerned about their usage. I mean, he got 17 carries this past week. He only turned it into 80 yards, but the usage was there. I'm not giving up on Gibbs. I feel fine about both of those guys to a degree. Obviously, rookies can be a little inconsistent. There will be some lumps. There will be some growing pains. Honestly, Bijan's growing pain is no fault of his own. Bijan is going through growing pains that are out of his control because he doesn't have a good head coach calling the shots. But I believe in both of these guys from a talent perspective. I believe in these guys from a talent perspective. That's a nice trade to get Olave in Dynasty, by the way. Okay, yes. 4 for 1 or 5 for 1 in Dynasty. Yes. Seen that happen. That's not uncommon because you can include draft picks as pieces. In redraft, though, I don't think I've ever seen that. That's nicely done, though. Because Mechie has been usurped by Tank Dell. Justin Ross, I don't know. I mean, these guys are flyers. These guys are dart throws. Olave is a top 12 wide receiver. So nicely done. Nicely done. Kevin, congrats on the dub. And you're getting Kamara back. Nicely done. Good job treading water until then. That's all you need to do. If you take a shot on a guy who you know is not going to play for the first few weeks, but you just get one win, you're treading water, you're holding the ship down, that's fine. It's okay. 1 and 2 is fine. It's not what we prefer. We prefer to be 2-1. Obviously, we all prefer to be 3-0, but let's keep things realistic. We all want to be 2-1. 1-2 is fine. You're okay. 0-3 hurts, but again, we're not even a month into the season. There's still time to turn this thing around. It's okay. And yeah, some good names, some good players. Laporta's off to a ridiculous start. Those Iowa tight ends, man. If a tight end comes out from Iowa, put that dude on your radar. Put that guy on your radar. Why are people high on Achane? I mean, I think we saw it on display. Yeah, he's not gonna like I said a little while ago. He's not gonna get a 40 burger probably again for the rest of the season. I don't think I'm making any crazy claims here, and that's not a knock on. You're talking about all time performances. Um, that being said, he's an enticing rookie running back who is a carbon copy of Raheem Mostert attached to the best offense in football. The Dolphins are the best offense in the NFL right now. I don't think there's any debate there. Who are you going to put over them? It's not the Bills. It's not the Chiefs. It's not the 49ers. It's the Dolphins. The Dolphins are the best offense in football right now. It's not the Eagles. It's the Dolphins. And I can get a rookie running back with blazing speed who clearly showed that he needs to be an integral part of what they do for the rest of the season moving forward. Yeah, he's my number one waiver priority this week, regardless of whether you need a running back or not. I like Tank Dell a lot. I like Achane more. I like Achane more. Okay, so here's the all right, so you got the specific situation here, Astro. Ford, Cook, Pierce. So good running back options already. Terry McLaurin, it feels like pulling teeth a little bit, but he's still a good player. Lockett, what did Lockett do this past week? I actually don't. I feel like I didn't catch any of that Seattle Carolina game. Okay, so he blew up week 2. I remember that, and then this past week it was kind of a 3 for 34, not spectacular. He's a little up and down. He's a little up and down. He should have a good time this week against the Giants, though. I think Debo's still breaking tackles from Thursday night against the Giants. But he lost Mike Williams, so that hurts. And Garrett Wilson lost Aaron Rodgers, so that hurts. You're starting Ford, you're starting James Cook, you're starting Dameon Pierce. And then you probably have to start Garrett Wilson. You have to start Terry McLaurin. And as of right now, you have to start Tyler Lockett. I guess I would say, yeah, your running back depth is a little bit stronger than your wide receiver depth. If in this situation and if you yourself don't, if you're not buying Achane, if you're just not believing in Achane and you, with that combination, need a wide receiver a little bit more given the outlook of your team, given the makeup of your team, then okay, go grab Tank Dell instead. I just think with Achane, we're looking at a guy who has RB3 upside until he gives us a reason not to fire him up. Again, he's not going to have a 40-plus point fantasy performance again. That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. But at least for one more week, Jeff Wilson is not going to play. And in a game against the Bills, another offense that can score plenty, you got to imagine Achane's in a really good spot again this week to put up some strong numbers. to put up RB3 numbers or better. And if he gets the volume that we expect, I think 12 to 15 PPR points are certainly within the realm of possibility for a guy like Achane. With Tank Dell, week 2 and week 3, great. Awesome. 7 for 72 week 2 and a touchdown. 5 for 145 and a touchdown week 3. Amazing. Amazing. Tank Dell's off to a great start. He's probably a little more wide receiver volatility is a thing. I mean, just look at his teammate Nico Collins. Nico blew up week 2. Really quiet week 3. That could flip-flop this week. Nico Collins was the one who had the quiet game this week. We could go back to Nico being the guy this week. And I'm not saying it's a guarantee. It's just that the wide receiver volatility is a little bit more of a thing week over week, whereas we expect Achane to get his touches again in another game without Jeff Wilson. It's harder to predict the volatility of wide receivers each week, unless they're a bona fide wide receiver 1, which there's only about 10 of those guys. That being said, if you feel really strongly about your stable of running backs and you're feeling way more shaky about your wide receivers, it's fine to prioritize Tank Dell. Basically, who's the guy that's closer to starting for you? And I guess that's what it comes down to. Plus, if you yourself aren't like that big of a believer in Achane, if you're not buying the hype, and we all have our guys, right? We all have our feelings about certain players and what our expectations are for those guys. They're all going to be different for person to person. That's what makes this game so fun. We can all have our own opinions about any one person or any one player. If you're not feeling Achane, I am. I am all in on this guy. But if you're not, then you can pivot to Tank Dell, especially if you are wide receiver needy. Just going to let y'all know now, I am reaching the end of the chat. I don't think I missed any other questions above. Let me know if I did, but I'm pretty sure I got everybody thus far. Probably going to be wrapping this up here in the next few minutes. So appreciate you guys coming in and hanging out. If there are any other more waiver wire questions before the end of the stream, I'm happy to take them. If any last minute questions come up later tonight before waivers process, you can hit me up in Discord. Second link in the description of this live stream if you're not already a part of the Discord channel. If any other questions come up later this evening, go ahead and drop them in there. We can take a look at them. But appreciate you guys coming in and hanging out. And then, Batty, I did get, I guess maybe you missed this. I would tentatively pencil in Breece as your start of those guys, but I encourage you to come back on the weekend when I do my start sit streams. If you can, Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern. My Sunday stream is in limbo right now because there is a London game this week. The Falcons and the Jaguars kick off at 9:30 Eastern. So I'm not sure what I'm looking like as far as availability on Sunday morning. I'm sure you guys prefer to watch the game. We'll play that one by ear. But between practice reports and vibes and all that good stuff that goes into ultimately determining your starting lineup, it's easier to figure that stuff out later in the week than earlier in the week. So I would pencil in Breece, but I would encourage you to come back on Saturday if possible, and we can kind of more definitively figure that out when we get practice reports and injury reports and just how are we feeling about any one specific player's personal situation closer to kickoff. I would encourage you that you try to make it then. If you can't, again, feel free to join the Discord. I do give more thoughts and analysis to my members over there, but it is free for the general public to join. I can help out over there as well. And yeah, I like Elijah Moore over Tank Dell. I like Elijah Moore over Palmer. I like him over Thielen. Um, I would spend. I mean, I feel like Elijah Moore is continuing to fly under the radar a little bit. I do. I think Elijah Moore's flying under the radar a little bit. He had 9 catches this past week. It was only for 49 yards. So you might be able to get him on the cheap. But that is an ad I would be interested in making because Deshaun Watson looked pretty good relative to how he had looked the first 2 weeks. Deshaun Watson looked better in week 3. And so I don't think you probably have to spend too much on Elijah Moore. I would say 20% of your fob. I would say about 20%. You're probably going to have to spend more on Tank Dell. You're probably going to have to spend more on Tank Dell. I would probably personally pivot to Elijah Moore. You're going to need to spend 30% of your fob on Tank Dell. You could probably get away with like 17 to 20-ish percent on Elijah Moore. Yeah, you'll probably have to do you'll probably have to spend more on Tank Dell, and I would prefer to get Elijah Moore. So I would spend about 20% on him. I think you can get away with that. Betty, hey man, welcome to the memberships. Appreciate that, man. Welcome aboard. Thanks for joining the other members on the channel. Appreciate your support. Happy to have you along for the season. Much appreciated. Much appreciated. I'll get you added to, and I saw you just joined the Discord, so I'll get you added to the members only channels in the Discord. I do encourage my members to use those sections of the Discord. That way I can kind of hone in on like, okay, I have a question in my members only Discord. I got to make sure that I give like some real thought process on that one. That's just kind of how it works. I do give, I'll work with the general public as well in the Discord, but my paying customers, you get a little extra love from me for supporting the channel. So appreciate it. Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. Terrell, I'm happy to set up a consultation. I don't think I can do tonight, but we can certainly get one in this week before the games kick off. Actually, I probably have some availability tomorrow. I think I have availability tomorrow on Wednesday. So if you want to get a consultation set up, we can make that happen tomorrow. Feel free to join up. If you are a part, if you have Discord, feel free to join the Discord and we can arrange it. If not, I can we can figure out a way to get in contact. We can set up maybe like a Zoom call. I can send you a link somehow, some way, and we can link up there. If you have Discord though, that's probably easiest to get something set up. And I do have availability tomorrow to get some consultation set up. You let me know. And whatever means of communication works best for you, you let me know. You let me know. Astro, I didn't feel any hostility. You're good, man. It's all good. It's not, you're just asking a question. There's no, yeah, it's all good. It's all good. I know how everybody's just looking for like, what's the best plan of attack? What's the best approach? Given my situation, what's the best thing that I can do for my team moving forward? You good? It's all good. Y'all know I'm happy to talk shop with you guys with whatever you got going on. No problem. As far as his, can Akers get up to speed quickly? God damn it, I hope so. I hope so. I invested so heavily in him this offseason. And after everything that happened after week 1, I was instantly regretting it. Look, Alexander Madison had the numbers were there at the end of the day, but the production, the efficiency was bad. 20 carries, 93 yards. That's not good. It's less than 4 yards a carry, or less than 5 yards a carry. Or what was that, like 4.4? I guess that's not terrible. I guess that's not terrible. He had a better day this past week, but he was really awful the first 2 weeks. So it's like a Jekyll and Hyde situation with Madison right now. Okay, week 3, solid, good production against a terrible run defense, by the way. The Chargers stink at stopping the run. Um, and 5 catches for 32 yards. That's also huge. That's great involvement. But the first 2 weeks of the season were putrid for Alexander Madison. They were really bad. So maybe the Akers acquisition, like, you know, fired him up a little bit. I don't know. Lit a fire under him, so to speak. But they didn't trade for him not to use him. And we might need to continue to be patient with Cam Akers. I can't possibly advise starting him this week, even if he is active. But he's attached to an offense that has to account for playing with a bad defense. The Vikings are a bad defense, so the Vikings are going to have to remain aggressive on offense all season long. They are not going to ever be able to take their foot off the gas, not with the defense that they have to work with. The Vikings have severe defensive problems that are going to hinder them for the rest of the season, which means the offense is going to have to keep scoring points and keep their foot on the gas. Akers hopefully stands to benefit from that. Hopefully. But also, we got to see what the vibes are in practice this week. Is he even going to be active? And if he is, I don't know that we can trust him just yet. They're playing the Panthers, so it would be a good spot for him to get some work and a good opportunity for him to come through. But we got to see what the vibes are for him coming into practice this week. And if the Vikings will even activate him. I want to believe in Cam Akers. I hope that Achilles tear that he suffered a few years ago didn't completely wreck his NFL career. And we saw the good Cam Akers at the end of the season last year. He was putting up good numbers. Like, the production was there. The production was solid. I think he got out of for whatever reason, Akers and the Rams were a toxic marriage. Akers and McVay. I guess McVay, for whatever reason, didn't like Cam Akers. I can't tell you why. I can't tell you what the reasoning is. I don't know where things went wrong there, but clearly they went wrong. Hopefully this change of scenery is another X factor here that kind of gets Akers going. But you probably have to start a guy like Derrick Henry for one more week if that's your option. Probably got to start Henry one more week if that's your option. And yeah, Greg, I would say Elijah Moore over everybody. I know Tutu had another nice game last night. These Rams receivers, man, who saw this coming? Some people will claim that they saw Puka Nacua coming. I'm like, nobody saw 10 and 15 catch performances to start the season. I would still probably prefer Elijah Moore long term if you're of the belief that Cooper Kupp can come back and give this offense something once he's activated off IR. Do we have any updates on Cooper Kupp? Rehab, how everything's going? No, there's still no timetable. I mean, Pro Football Network put something out yesterday about Cooper Kupp. Just want to go ahead and keep an eye on this, check this thing out. He's eligible to return after this week. Yeah, I mean, Puka and Tutu Atwell are going to retain some value, I would say, for at least the next 2 weeks. But ultimately, I'll take the guy who I know has a role for the rest of the season, and that's Elijah Moore. I would take Elijah Moore. And Betty, appreciate it one more time. Thanks for joining on. Happy to have you. Appreciate it, Zav. Appreciate the kind words. As far as wide receivers to start, I will be live Thursday, so we'll get some like vibes on Christian Watson. I think that's Christian Watson, right? It's wide receiver. So yeah, it's not Deshaun Watson, it's Christian Watson. We'll get some vibes on Christian Watson coming into the game. So if you can make Thursday's stream, I encourage you to. But Lamb, you're firing up for sure. And I would say given Puka and Tank Dell, even though they're awesome, or they've been awesome recently, if Christian Watson is active, as long as there's no reports like, oh, Watson to be on a pitch count. If he's on a pitch count on a Thursday night, I'm a little concerned about him. But if there's no indication that he's going to be on a pitch count, then I would fire up Watson. And then we can figure out Puka versus Tank Dell later in the week. I'd probably still give one more slight nod to Puka. But we got to get through practice reports first. We got to get through injury reports first before we make a more definitive call. Lamb, you're firing up no matter what. Watson, you're firing up as long as there's no pitch count. Oh, he's going to be on a snap count. He's not going to play a full complement of snaps. He could still deliver on limited opportunities, but I never like rolling the dice on that. It's too risky. So we got to see the vibes on Watson coming into the game. I will be live on Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern. We'll be hanging out before kickoff. See what the vibes are with Christian Watson. See what the vibes are with Aaron Jones. It's another guy who's expected to return, but we don't definitively know yet. So if you can make Thursday's stream, I certainly encourage you to. If you can't make it, just keep in mind like what the vibes are on Watson going into the game. No limitations, start him. Reports are he'll be on a snap count. I would lean sitting him. And then if you start him, I would probably give the slight nod to Puka. But again, we got to get through practice reports and all that good stuff over the course of the week. So if you can, I would also encourage you to join the Saturday stream. Saturday start, sit, help, 6 p.m. Eastern, right here on this channel. I normally host Sunday streams as well, but there is a London game this week. Only on ESPN Plus, by the way. So if you don't have an ESPN Plus subscription, get one or find a friend who does. But we'll figure out the Sunday start, sit, help later this week. Jaws, man, I'm sorry. That's brutal. I hate that. I hate hearing that stuff because it's like you should have won, right? You were winning. 2-2 gets a late score. I think I lost by 0.2 last year in a match. I lost by 0.2 on like a defensive stat correction, and it knocked me out of the playoffs. I was sick for the whole. I was like, I don't know if I can stream this week. I'm just too sad. I think I toughed it out, but those are the heartbreakers. Hopefully the ball bounces your way this week. Let's get a dub this week and get that bad taste out of our mouth. Hopefully we're smooth sailing from here on out. And Rest of season, Musgrave or Higbee, it's tough because with Musgrave, Batty, Christian Watson's coming back, Aaron Jones is coming back. Musgrave's usage probably takes a hit. But with Higbee, Cooper Kupp is eventually going to come back. So you would think his usage could take a bit of a hit. In this instance, I would probably lean the veteran, even though the Rams are probably not as good of a team as the Packers. But Stafford peppered Tyler Higbee with targets last year. Obviously, they didn't have Puka Nacua. They did have Tutu, but Tutu was still developing. I think he was a rookie last year, so wasn't ready to regularly contribute. He is now. I would give the slight nod to Higbee, especially because in his instance, the guy coming back, Kupp, is a greater risk for re-injury than Christian Watson. Cooper Kupp is older, advanced age, already suffered a setback from a hamstring injury. I would slightly lean Higbee. As who I prefer rest of season, but I don't want to drop Musgrave yet if I don't have to. If it's to get Achane or Tank Dell or one of the hot waiver names this week, then so be it, but I would probably lean Higbee as my preferred hold, even though I think Musgrave was better this week. But I would probably lean Higbee rest of season. The Rams aren't a terrible team. They're not great, but they played the Seahawks, who made the playoffs last year. They played the 49ers, made the championship game last year, the NFC championship game last year. And then last night they played the Bengals, AFC championship last year. They played 3 good teams. They have a positive point differential. The Rams aren't great, but they're not terrible. Higbee's been kind of quiet so far this year, but he had his best game last night. 5 catches for 71 yards. His usage isn't going anywhere, even when Cooper Kupp comes back. I would think Musgrave is the greater risk of taking a hit when Watson and Aaron Jones both return for the Packers. Musgrave might be the better athlete at this point in their respective careers, just younger, more athletic player. But I'll take the steady vet in Higbee. Maybe Musgrave's a little bit more of an upside play, but Higbee's going to be steadier, if I had to guess. Higbee should be a little bit steadier. We are at the end of the chat, so I am probably going to be wrapping this up here shortly. Terrell, I hope let me know how to correctly pronounce it. If you're still in here, hit me up, comment on one of these videos or join the Discord if you can. We'll coordinate getting a consultation set up if you feel so inclined to join as a member of the channel. And this is just a reminder for my channel members. Any channel member is eligible for consultation. We'll have to set it up, of course. I could use a day or so in advance to make sure I get that set up because I am actually not available this evening, unfortunately. But all channel members, I believe it's all pro and up, are eligible for consultation. If you so choose, let me know in Discord if you want to get that set up. And over the next week or so, we can get that sorted out. And let me know what your best form of communication is, Terrell, and we'll get that figured out. Otherwise, again, Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern, I will be here ahead of the Thursday night football game. If there's any start-sit questions that pertain to Thursday night, can work through that. Or we can talk about, these next couple of days as well. We'll get some practice reports, some injury reports. There will be plenty of conversation starters to talk about Thursday ahead of the game. And we can, of course, talk about the game itself or any other things that pertain to your fantasy team as well. Appreciate you guys coming in, hanging out tonight. Appreciate the engagement. Got a new member, Batty. Welcome. Happy to have you. Thank you to all of my members, and thank you to everybody in general for the questions, the engagement. Appreciate you guys coming in and hanging out. Always fun to talk shop and talk fantasy. That'll do it for me, though, tonight, guys. Everybody have a great rest of your evening. I will see y'all Thursday. We'll get week 4 started off on the right foot. Thanks, everybody.